Hello watchers, today is all about oil pastels and where I'm currently at with oil pastels. Now if anyone's seen the whale of an art haul I did, you'd know that I got a little test pack of Sennelier oil pastels and their pastel paper. I'll leave a link in the cards above for that art haul video just in case you haven't seen it, and if you just love a good art haul, I know I do. But since then I've also received the scroller box that had oil pastels in it as well. So I've got a few extra colours, and they gave me some of the Sennelier paper as well, but it's only half the size of that. So I think, yeah, I think it's about A6-ish. But then I also got, I couldn't resist because I saw these super cheap, the 12 set of oil pastels as well. So there are some colours that have been duplicated. So that's sort of where I've been playing with for the last couple of weeks. And I'll show you what I've done. So these are all now mix and mash. So I've put the scroller sticker on there because why not? So what I've done is I've actually cut this foam down that was in the box to create another layer from the foam that we got in the scroller box. So these are basically the duplicates that I've got. So we've got a lot of black and whites. We've got the red and the ochre as well. So then what I've tried to do is then put it in order of colour. So we'll go from the blues all the way to the black and whites, and also another duplicate green there. So it just makes it easy for me when I'm pulling things out. Just pop them back a second. Oh, and that's where I keep my scratchy stick. So what I've been doing, and I've been testing these out on other bits of paper as well, but I've not been really doing anything crazy, like actually drawing anything too much with them yet. I've just been like testing them with blending them and scratching into them. Again here, testing out the colours and how they might overlay or mix with one another. Because the great thing about these is that you can mix them together, but the best way to mix them together is to take a bit off with a palette knife and then really mesh them together. That's the best way to blend them, mix them together if you want to change the colour, either lighten them or just completely a different colour. But if you do it on the page, you get this wonderful sort of smudge effect, which could be really useful for things like sea and sky. Then also I've been working with layers and then scratching one of the layers away so it reveals the colour underneath. So that's just the technique that I've found by just playing. Then I've sort of laid out the colours, colour swatching basically. Sorry, I got distracted by this one because this one didn't lay down as smoothly or as opaquely as the other ones for some reason. This is the yellow ochre, but probably if I work at it a bit more, it probably will do. So that's all I've sort of played with a little bit. I have done some on other different pieces of paper, but the oil sort of seeped through the paper, so I know that I need to use a particular type of paper when I'm using oil pastels. So I've had an idea for a design. I want to do an actual art piece that I want to do, but I needed some more colours. And lo and behold, what did Jackson do? Go on a pastel sale the week that I decided I needed more colours. So of course I've got a little unboxing for you. Now when I say a little unboxing, yeah, not quite as little as you'd imagine. Let's just get into it and show you what I've got. I decided to stick with the Sennelier brand for oil pastels. I am tempted by the Caran d'Ache Neo Pastels, the original ones. Let's just get rid of the invoice, you don't need to see that. But for now I thought I'd just stick with Sennelier ones. I don't know why I always lean towards Sennelier when it comes to pastels, whether it's soft pastels or now oil pastels. Except for pencils, they don't do pencils. Oh, we got some airbags. Oh, that was taped down. It is now not. I'll show you that in a minute. Oh. Again, on the art haul, you may have seen I got a tiny version of this. And once I started using soft pastels on it, I immediately fell in love with it. Let me get it open. Such savage. I'm such a savage trying to open this. Okay, here we are. So I stood on an airbag. But because of all the extra packaging they do, there's no dinted corners with these, because these pastel boards are on wood. So they might chip in the corner. Oh, in fact, I take it back. That's been dinted quite harshly at the bottom. Ah, sugar. That's gonna... Yeah, I'm gonna have to contact him about that, because it was going to be a whole art piece. I can't have a dint in. This is actually for a client that's requested something. So yeah, I'm sorry Jacksons, but I'm going to have to contact you about that. Yeah, even where the box has come, the box itself is dinted as well, so it's clearly got dropped or something. Oh, bollocks. Anyway, I got this pastel board. It's fantastic. This is the board that I got in the art haul. Obviously not painted like this. This is me messing around with different materials. Now the reason why I love it so much is that when I've used pastel pencils, I've sprayed it with fixative twice and the colour does not shift in the slightest. You can hear me scrubbing at it and it does not move at all. Not on my finger, anything. Even like the super dark colours, it does not budge. So I didn't put fixative on them ones. So those ones, you can see that they do smudge, because obviously I've not used fixative. But the amount of layers of pastel you can get on this is just fantastic. And the fact that it's so sturdy as well, it's not going to curl up or crease or anything like that unless you dint it. So that's the reason why I wanted to get a bigger one for a client's piece of work, which is why I've got a massive pastel board. They actually come bigger than this. I think this is like their A2 version, which is 18 by 24 inches, which is 45.7 centimeters and 61 centimeters. So yeah, and they're archival, you know, the by ampersand. If anybody knows that brand, they know that they're, you know, really quality stuff. I mean, this was, I think, nearly £30, so they're not cheap, but because this is for a client's work, the client's technically paying for the materials, so, you know, and they wanted something really sturdy without being in a frame, so that's why I needed that, and not for it to be dinted. So yeah, that's why I've got pastel board. I am going to try oil pastels on this. I haven't yet, so we'll try that later in the video. Really disappointed that is dented. Can't get my words out now, but hopefully that'll get sorted. Now, I wanted to get some of the larger Sennelier oil pastel pad, but this wasn't on offer, but this was. So I decided to get the Arches because I love the Arches for watercolour paper. I didn't know they did oil paper, so I did do quite a bit of research to understand, you know, is it just as good as this? And some people say that that's actually better than this, especially if you use Sennelier's oil sticks, which are apparently more towards like oil painting than oil pastels. Oil pastels, I believe, have got more wax in them than the oil sticks, which are, I think, just pure linseed and oil that's in them, I believe. Don't take my word on that, but maybe I'll discover those later in the thing, because they do look kind of cool, the oil sticks, especially the chunky ones. It's like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm just enjoying the oil pastels for now. But I am curious. I couldn't find out online if this has got sheets like in between it, like the Sennelier one does. But if not, that's not too much of a hassle for me, because usually what I do is I put a bit of either tracing paper or probably greaseproof, because it's oil, in between them, and then pop it in a display book as I'm, you know, working on it or archiving it. It's very rare I keep my work in pads. So let's just get the horrible plastic off. So this is 100% cotton. It's the big pad of 31 times 41. I believe the oil pads only come in 2 sizes. It's 300 GSM and there's 12 sheets per pad. And it's strange paper. It's thinner than I thought it would be. I mean, it's still thick, but it's thinner than what I thought it would be. It smells a little strange, but okay. But there's no of the protective sheets in between, so, but that's alright. That's alright. I do tend to go for bigger pads anyway, because if I do want smaller, you can always cut the paper down. But yeah. I don't think it needs to be glued all the way around the edges anyway, because it's oil pastel, not watercolour. But apparently this paper soaks up the oil that the pastels leave behind, so it doesn't like go through the paper or anything like that. Which is what I've found that it does on other pieces of paper. You get like oil stains in oil blobs. So it looks like just really not very nice at all. So that's that. Now let's look at what else I got. Look at that in a minute. So, sticking with the Senneliers, I decided to get a few sets. Now, I really scratched my head with these two because I was trying to find some sets that didn't have colours that I've already got. And I was like cross-referencing like which set was what. And then they've got the set of 48 as well. And then they've also got a landscape set as well. And I initially went for the landscape because I'm like, landscape's usually the sets that I use more of in terms of architecture. But I found that the landscape set had a lot more greens, which yes, I use a little bit of, but not too much. I tend to use a lot more of the sort of stone, brick, sort of grey concretes. You know, they don't do an urban set. It'd be good if they did. They do in their soft pastels, but not the oil pastels yet. So Sennelier, if you're listening, you know, let's team up. Let's you know, make a urban set of oil pastels. So after doing a lot of cross-referencing, I got the portrait one and the still life one. So let's have a little looky inside of these. There's 24 colours in each. These were on sale. So of course I took the opportunity to get a couple of sets. Because when I'm planning out the art piece that I want to do, I think there was about 12 colours that I knew that I wanted for sure. And 9 of those 12 colours were mixed into these sets as well. And there's not a lot of the colours in here that I've already got. So it made sense for me to get these two. So we get the usual book explaining all about Sennelier pastels. And I've realised they do a much bigger one as well. So it's not just the oil sticks that come in 2 different sizes, it's also the oil pastels. And then a colour chart on the back. And then all about the history of Sennelier and all the different products they do. But then, look at these. So the colours that I know that I'll use quite a bit are the blues, the greys, these muted tones, the ochres, the yellows. This, to me, looks like my favourite colour that I always like to use in Caran d'Ache, which is the violet. They call it violet grey, but then Derwig call it Mars violet. What do these guys call it? They call this violet grey. So, you know, I love this colour, so it's going to be interesting to see what it's like in oil pastel. And then again, we've got black and white, but you know, oil pastels do sort of tend to run down quite quickly, so it's not too bad. And especially with the white, you're going to mix it to make things lighter anyway, so it's always handy to have a lot of white ones. So let's have a quick look of the, oh, we just get the booklet in that one. So this one is the portrait set. And we get some more different blues, some more different greys. Is that another violet grey? No, that's a violet ochre. So it's going to be slightly different. And then I've got more of the stone sort of rendered sort of tech colours that I'd use. And then obviously some other ones. Some more greys and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see what they all look like. And then finally, I've got a few extra colours because, as I said, when I was working out my art piece, an illustration, there we go. Use the correct terminology, woman. There was 9 of the colours that's in those sets, and then there was the other 3, that I had to buy individually. But again, these were reduced, so it didn't bother me too much. And plus, they come in little foam things, which is great for me. Because it means when I do get extra colours, I've got extra foam to keep these separate. Because the last thing I want to happen is that they sort of like melt together. But it's weird with the oil pastels, because when you're looking at them like this, to me that just looks like a yellow ochre, but it's not. It's a earth brown. And then some more of the greys. I always need greys. So that was the little art haul. I'll tell you what, I will swatch all these out on some more pastel paper, because I think that page, yeah. So why is that empty? Oh, it's because I was doing like yellows, oranges and reds, greens and then blues. I know why. I know why. So we'll swatch those out on there. All those, so that might take a minute. Okay, so grab yourself a drink. I've just got some apple Lucozade to feed my sugar cravings. So when I do my swatches, I'm going to use a stencil like I do for my pencils, if you've seen any of my other videos. Just a circular one. If it gets a little bit messy on the template, I'll just use paper towel to wipe it off. So I'm gonna basically do each set. I'll get about 20 circles on each, so there'll be some overhang, but that's all right. That's all right. So let's get into swatching. So I think I'm gonna do the portrait set. Is it the portrait first? Yes, portrait set first. So, I hope you enjoy the music that I choose. Enjoy the swatching. So that's all the swatching of the new colours that I received today. So my favourite colours in the portrait set, I'm going to have to say, is this Mars Violet? Is it Mars Violet or Mars Ochre? The blue, the pink, those three colours together, well, those four actually together. This sandy colour as well, the light grey. I'm always a sucker for greys, I've got to admit. But the thing that I really liked was all four of these colours together. I really like that, those together. I've noticed I've started liking a much more muted palette than the super bright, obviously reds. Reds is the least colour that I tend to use. Of course, with the extra colours that I got, the earth brown is very much welcome, because I don't think there is one that's too, well, I know there are other ones that are similar but not quite that tone that I'm after. Then of course more greys, but this one, this really dark is charcoal, is really dark, but it's got like a blue tone to it compared to is the black. If it'll let me show you. Yeah, compared to the black, it's got a blue tone to it, and then this darker, that's a browner grey, more of a brown grey. And then these three colours I love together as well, especially this like plum. This is absolutely delicious. And then that is actually very similar to that. Actually, are they the same? They might be the same. Yep, they're the same. So that plum can be thrown up there with that palette as well. This is the Still Life palette, part of it. And then this is the other Still Life. Now this Receder colour, as I would call it. But I think it's 240... Oh no. It's 205. It's so soft. It literally is like warm butter. And of course, I love the Mars Violet in this set, in these sandy colours. In this blue, I love the muted blues. And again, I like these three colours together as well. So with oil pastels, I think it is essential to swatch out, because when I put that colour down, the stick looked black. So you really need to swatch out your colours to see what's what. But yeah, so I'm happy. Oh, I've already creased that page. That was me trying to flick it back. So there we go. The oil Sennelier paper is not very flexible. It will easily crease. But that's all right for this. And then they're the colours I had before. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the set. I know my instinct is saying to me, where are the greens? Because I don't have many greens. So I'm kind of regretting not getting the landscape collection. But do I really need the greens? Do I? I don't know. We'll try and mix and match. I might be able to get some nice green colours anyway. But anyhow, I can always get the landscape